I'm Todd Rheingold. Welcome to another installment of I Got a Testimony. Today we will be joined by Lisa Ferlita. I've happened to know Lisa for a very long time. We kind of grew up together in upstate New York. She's done some amazing things with her life, and I would like her to share her testimony with us today. I'm not going to say that much because she's a really interesting person to hear from, and I'm going to just turn it right over to her. Lisa, we just wanted to hear your testimony. Take it away.
Well, first, thanks so much. I'm very humbled to be invited to share my testimony with you and other viewers today. So thank you very much for having me here to join you. My testimony starts probably back in my childhood. I remember starting in kindergarten, and I couldn't spell my name. My name is 4 letters. It's Lisa, and at the time, I almost failed kindergarten because I had the inability to spell my name. I was moved up in a couple grades and a couple of classes. Not a lot of attention was paid to as to why I had some challenges, not only with my writing skills, but as well as my reading skills. It was unfortunate. I failed 7th grade. Then I went to summer school, and I passed 7th grade in the summer school because I just had to take a couple of classes. I struggled with 8th grade. I failed 8th grade. And then in summer school, and they moved me ahead up to 9th grade. So I was able to stay with my classmates along the way. But throughout probably my teenage years and younger years, I had a lot of anger inside of me. I didn't understand why I couldn't learn as quick as others, why my study sessions took longer, why I would get F's on reading comprehension skill tests and read it over and over again, and there were multiple choice answers. I was frustrated as a child and didn't really understand why. When I graduated in 12th grade with our class, I think we had 220 students, and maybe I was number 220 out of 222.
Oh.
I graduated. So we'll have to double check that, but I was really, really low as far as the students with graduation in the top, in the bottom 10, let's say. I went in the military after I got out of the high school and went in there, joined the Air Force, was involved in Desert Storm. And when I was over in Desert Storm, I still had these problems and issues, but I really had nobody to speak to about it. I was doing my best trying to understand why, even in the military, I was learning slower. I was doing things at a speed that wasn't competitive enough, whether it was reading or writing reports. So the military, actually, my commanding officer offered me to go to a testing agency. I went to a testing agency, took a reading comprehension test, and here I am at the age of 24, 25 years old about time. That's when I found out I had dyslexia and a reading comprehension issue. It's because I actually voiced my concern as a young adult and said, something's wrong. I can't continue to live in this environment where it's a constant struggle. Not only, some people have listening skills that they need to work on. Some people have ADD, that as it's defined today. Some people have reading comprehension disorders that they never knew that they can tackle. Apparently I was one of those statistics that had it. And I'm really thankful that the military took the time to listen to me. Don't know what happened in the educational sector, but I think we were just in an era where things like this wasn't recognized as a common or a disability among young students. So while I was there and I got out of Desert Storm and that whole event wrapped up and I got out of the military, I was able to go to a 9th grade reading level at age 28, 29 years old. And I came ferocious as a reader. I wanted to read everything. I wanted to read about different cultures, different societies, books, 1984 that we were supposed to read in high school. I was able to read and finally understand, and from there I was like, I need more education. So I went and got an associate's degree, and then I got my bachelor's degree, and then I became hungrier. And I said, I want to learn more. I want to read more because I missed out on almost 20 years of really good learning skills. So I wanted to go more. So I went for my master's degree. And here, it's really interesting. Now, this month in October, I'll be defending my dissertation in my PhD. So a person who had reading comprehension issues, dyslexia issues, really had to struggle through from my education and learning. It's just amazing for me to sit back and review my journey and reflect on how I had to reach out to other people, because I was ashamed. I was embarrassed.
We were talking before I turned the record button on, and I said to you, sometimes I get intimidated when I talk to certain people if they publish 10 books, and I can learn from them and their wisdom and their journey, but then there's a part of me that says either they've never been in my shoes or it's been so long. And I know that other people can feel that way too. And it's like, hearing you say that, I'm going, oh my God, like she's done so many amazing things, right? And that's why, though, it's so important that the audience hears where you came from. And I appreciate you sharing that, because what's really interesting as you were saying it, and I didn't want to interrupt, but how much we have in common. But, in my family too, I mean, here my dad was a doctor. My mother struggled with anxiety to a point where in the 70s she was taking a train into New York City to see a specialist, because we didn't have a lot of that in Poughkeepsie growing up. And back then you didn't have all these drugs. You had Valium, you had like the little yellow pill. Everyone in my family has had some kind of relationship with anxiety. And so I didn't know that I was really different. And so just like you said, it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I realized I got a problem. This isn't right. This isn't normal. Like, everyone experiences stress and to some extent anxiety when there's a stimulating event. But once the event is over with, most people go back to normal. I kind of don't, or it takes me super long time to get over it. I'm aware that other people do get over it, so I don't hold it against them. I do the best I can with that. But whereas other people think, oh, I said this to Todd a year ago, I'm sure he doesn't think about it. Oh yeah, I do. I just don't bring it up. It's part of the PTSD. I've been diagnosed with that as well as the anxiety. But what's the other thing that's so interesting is when you were in Desert Storm, I was at CNN covering Desert Storm. So that's when CNN was really on the map. Ted Turner was running it. It was a renegade operation. We had the respect of the world back then. It's a very different operation today. Very different from the way it was when I was there. But so we were basically fighting a war together. It's really interesting how our lives took similar paths. We have a lot in common. But again, I appreciate you sharing that testimony. I know you've traveled to 100 countries or over 100 countries.
124 to be exact. I know it's kind of unusual to know the exact amount. I don't track it, but some countries you go into, they actually request you list every country that you've been to. So I've been an expatriate, located in another country hosted by companies. And in China, when I went to China for 4 years, I had to list every country out on my application. So I've experienced a lot of different cultures and saw a lot of things that I was really blessed to see. Participated in some events that I never thought that I would participate in. For example, when I was in Tanzania, I was invited over to a design team's home to participate in Ramadan. That was a really interesting activity when it came to participating as an outsider, to observe the dedication and commitment during that time. It's such a family unit. It reminded me of the American Thanksgiving, where everybody gets together and has a feast for a different purpose than a religious purpose, right? So I experienced that in Tanzania. I experienced being invited to sit down and eat with the men in Saudi Arabia, which is not typically normal for a woman to do, but in the role that I was in, I was invited to the tent where they smoked the cigars and they were grilling the goat, and sat down and heard stories about the tribes within Saudi Arabia and the respect for each of the tribes that they have. Very similar stories to I would compare it to our Native American history, with the different tribes, different outbreaks, and the coming together that they had at the end. I was in India. We talked about that a little bit before you hit record. I was in India, and it was interesting to see so many people and how they just come together and respect everybody's role. You know, living and working outside the United States, it made me appreciate that regardless of what your job is and regardless of what you do, take pride in it. I had people who opened doors at the front of a hotel. That was their job. And they were the best door openers, whether it was for the car door, whether it was from the front doors. I met beautiful families in Ghana, actually all through the continent of Africa. Angola, I was in Angola right after the communism went away.
Mm.
I was in Tanzania, like I told you, Nigeria, South Africa, Niger. I was also in Ethiopia. And what amazed me there is the hospitality that every single person who didn't know me treated me upon entry into their country. All over the European theater as well as the United Kingdom. Worked in St. Petersburg, Russia for 18 months, and beautiful people there as well. So it's, if you can do any study and understand the cultural and outside of your own city or state or country, I encourage people to go and learn a lot.
Would you say, like, this is something that we've touched on? It's been my observation that, and I think they say 1% of people can change their minds. I know we all think we can, and that's what movies are about. Somebody starts out one way and ends up a different way at the end. But if we're to be honest, most of us, it's near impossible for us to let go of long-held beliefs. I would imagine it would be easier for somebody like yourself that travels outside of this culture where you can truly be objective. Deepak Chopra says, if you grew up on the sun, you'd have no concept of darkness. There would be no word for darkness in your language, and it would be impossible for you to understand it if you met somebody who came from a place where there was darkness. So it's kind of like that,
Right.
It doesn't make us bad people as Americans, but if somebody has really not traveled extensively or spent a good amount of time away, they don't have that objectivity. And so what I would ask you is, how have your travels and your work, which has taken you, because obviously this is mostly work, it's not leisure, how has that affected any of your long-held beliefs, like what you really held on to until you spent a good amount of time away from this country?
Yeah, so I would say that it impacted my beliefs on several levels, not just on a business level. It's humbling, first of all. It made me appreciate that even though I came from a divorced parent home, that I didn't appreciate what I had when I was in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me appreciate the little things when people hand make a gift, when they make me, they invite me over to their home and they make their special dinner for me. These are major occasions internationally. Made me appreciate listening to storytelling from our elders. Unfortunately, not everybody can take care of an aging parent. For whatever reason that may be, that's their decision. And we have a great healthcare system, believe it or not, that would take care of that aging parent with that type of dementia or Alzheimer's care, or that needs a specialty care as we age, at any age. And internationally, they don't have that luxury. So I went to people's homes that they invited me to meet their father or meet their mother that were suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. Maybe they couldn't feed themselves because they had a stroke or some sort of disability. So it really changed. I respect elderly people more. Where before I thought it was just like, yeah, you get old, we're going to put you somewhere. Or everybody who's old in the United States from New York is going to move to Florida, or a state to help them with their arthritis. And, family time is more important to me now than it ever has been. Appreciating the little things that are not materialistic. I became a minimalist. I don't worry about the cars that I drive, the horse that I'm on, the goats that I see. Offerings before dinner is a very spiritual impact for me. I'm always thankful for what's presented in front of me. whether it's by my own family or whether it's by a host in another country. So it, I can talk about this for hours, Todd, to be honest with you, because so many countries, as different as we are, we still are the same. It's just how we value each other as human beings. And that's really was eye-opening for me, in my 40s and in my 50s now. So.
No, I like that. I remember when I was in Israel, it's been a long time. I was there in 95, but I would imagine this part of things probably hasn't changed much. In Jerusalem, there was one supermarket, and you went in there and there was one kind of milk, maybe two.
Yeah.
But I realized that like we have 10 different brands to choose from, whether it's cheese, bread, but they had one supermarket, and it was maybe, if I recall, oh my God, how many square feet? I mean, it wasn't a supermarket. Like it was probably the size of maybe 2 fresh markets, and that's it. But you're thankful that you had that. But I was only there. I mean, I was in Israel for almost 14 days, but I was only in Jerusalem for like 6. One night we spent with the Bedouins out in the desert in a tent. And I think we did eat goat. I think that was something they prepared. And it's just very, very humbling. But like you said too, I noticed when I have been outside of this country, other cultures, I mean, it's just the way it used to be. Like you welcome the stranger, you welcome the foreigner. It's not a burden. You want them to meet your parents. You want them to have dinner with you. It's the ultimate gesture. And I think it's unheard of for somebody to reject it. Like if you're invited, you would never even think of not accepting. And if somebody puts the food in front of you, well, I learned this as a kid, like, you always eat. Now you don't have to clean your plate, but you have to eat. It's so insulting. I grew up, Jews, Italians, Greeks, Puerto Rican, because we're from upstate New York. I mean, we had everything. And I was around a lot of ethnicity. And when you're in someone's home and it's the first time and mom brings you something to eat, you don't say, I'm not hungry, or I don't like this, or, I'm vegetarian or gluten-free.
Right.
Like it's such an insult. It's amazing. I've known you, but how much we've done that it's in common. I wanted to mention this before I forget. I wrote about it in my book for the audience. Again, I try to mention it in every show. My spiritual memoirs, The Hopeful Aspirant, My Journey Until Now. So I go into great depth about this story with kindergarten. I thought I was learning disabled. I was not connecting, and I knew it. And because all the other kids were getting it and like writing stuff down, and I was still staring at the teacher like, what am I supposed to do? And what I remember is that I would be sent to the principal's office a lot. And he was really great, Mr. Albanese. And he would sit me on his lap and tutor me, and I would get it. And then I'd go back to class, and it would start over again. And that was kindergarten. Like, I just remember feeling really stupid and getting P's for poor on everything. And it was devastating. And that was the birth of my anxiety, honestly. Feeling like I was being left behind, worrying that I wasn't keeping up with the others. By the time I was in first grade, I kind of forgot about it. I kind of was on the right track. By fourth grade, I was kind of feeling smart and whatever about myself. And I said to my parents, what happened in kindergarten? And their answer, which I accepted, but I look back now and I say, it's kind of like when the puppy dies and you tell your kid it ran away.
Yeah, sure.
But their answer to me when I said, what happened to me in kindergarten? They said, well, you were just so smart that you couldn't learn at the level that they were teaching. And I was like,
Flow level.
Okay. But to this day though, to this day, Lisa, I'm such a visual learner, and it's been a problem with me on the jobs that I've had, because when someone teaches you in class, I've never learned well that way. And YouTube's amazing because you can learn visually. You mentioned the different countries and some of the experiences that you've had. You mentioned Tanzania and Ghana and Ethiopia. What are some of your favorite spots and why, or did you already kind of cover that?
No, I haven't covered that. And that's actually a frequently asked question. This is going to sound like a generic answer, but Todd, I love every country. I mean, I'm in Germany, I learned about the castles in the medieval times. The UK, I was in Switzerland, learned about the Pope and the Swiss Guard. Went to a couple of places there in China, to go see the Great Wall and the Summer Palace.
Wow.
And then going into, I live in the Philippines, so being there and seeing what we did in World War II and McCarthy and how, we helped an island country, going into Angola and watched them transition from a communist country to a socialist republic society, being in Russia and being able to go in St. Petersburg and just go to Catherine the Great and go see the palaces that are there, or go to Helsinki. Go to Singapore, and they're like a big technology country, so it's very advanced there. And to go to Buckingham Palace and go see the prisons.
Cool. Very cool.
But I would definitely tell you, every country is interesting and fascinating. There hasn't been a country where I felt uncomfortable, like I said earlier, because of my passport says I'm American, or because my gender is woman, as female, or because my ethnicity is Caucasian, race is Caucasian as well. Mm-hmm. So I felt very comfortable and very welcome in all those countries, but I was also respectful of those countries.
Sure.
So when I was in Saudi Arabia, I wore I covered up. When I went to Petra, I covered up. I dressed conservatively when I was in the UK. So you also have to realize when you go to these countries, it's not your country.
Yes. Because I've noticed.
So you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah. When I know in the little bit of traveling that I've done, I noticed that Americans do have that tendency. They'll go to another country. Bill Burr is actually one of my favorite comedians, says this. He says, you go to Jamaica and you ask where can I get a good pizza? He's like, you're in Jamaica, like eat native food. And I know that in the traveling I've done is a lot of times people will complain about the hotels or the amount of food, because we give a lot more food over here and we have access to it. And we have access to it 24 hours. I mean, I don't think any other country has access to food 24 hours like we do. But to go to a gas station and be able to really, you could eat dinner there. But one of the things I want to get on, because the show is called I Got a Testimony, and of course you gave a testimony. I love it. The goal of the show is I want a person who tunes in who maybe is having a rough day and feels like their cup is half empty. By the time they finish watching the show, I want them to feel like their cup is half full. So especially when you're traveling, you must get homesick. But even when you're not, like, what encourages you? What helps you to turn a rough day into a better day, whether it's people, places, things, whatever you want to share with the audience?
Yes, for those who don't know, I'm actually been in the United States for 8 months now. I was supposed to be only here for 2 weeks. So I've been away from my family for 8 months. They're in the Philippines. We have a lot of technology that connects us to our families and our friends. If you take away all that technology, and I am left in a hotel room, I know I'm not by myself. And the best way I can describe that to you is that spiritually, I feel that I am never alone. I feel that no matter how depressed or sad I may be, that my family is in the Philippines, it's okay. I'm going to make it through another sunrise. I'm going to make it through another sunset. Mm-hmm. Right? And I got the best I can every single day. And so I put my hands and I say my prayers, and I'm thankful for every moment that I'm on this earth.
Is there a specific book or a particular guru that you follow?
Typically, because I'm in the middle of getting my PhD, my personal reading has gone down quite a bit. I got the Holy Bible that I stick with, the NIV. Holy Bible version, and I try to always, there's this one section where you can look up a word, whether it's compassion, despair, depression, anxiety, hope, fear, and it refers you back to a couple passages. So based on the feelings and the moods that I have, if I can self-identify how I'm feeling, which is not easy for myself to do every single day, I try to go, I'm like, okay, I have some anxiety, Lord, what can I do? And I look in there and I'm like, okay, let me go read these passages in the Old Testament me through anxiety, right? So, I wish I could do some more personal reading, but I am such on the scholarly level. Yeah. I stick with my basics right now.
Yeah. Are there particular scriptures that you go to more than others, or do you just kind of, like you said, you want to read something about compassion, you look it up, but do you have certain scriptures that, like, for example, I got one behind me, but I have stuff all over my walls. I have stuff all over my
Yeah,
walls,
I
and
see.
but they're not the ones necessarily that other people like. They're the ones that have spoken out to me. I've read the Bible cover to cover a few times, and when I literally am not feeling good and I walk around and I look at the ones I have around the house and I say them, I feel better. It's there's truth in it, and
Yeah,
that's why, like I said to you earlier, there's power in the scriptures, and not discounting
yeah.
anybody else's religion. I was a religion major. I'd read some all the major books of religion. I won't say I read all of them, but I've read a large number of them. I have mad respect for it, but I just feel like there are certain scriptures that really resonate with me, and because of my anxiety, be anxious for nothing, but in all things with prayer and thanksgiving, make all thy
Yeah,
requests be made
that's
known to
good.
God. That's a
Yeah.
good one, things like that. So I was just wondering if you had anything like that, but I don't want to put you on the spot. If you do, great. If you don't, fine.
No, no, no. It's okay.
Yeah.
No, no. So for my scripture, for God loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son. So I would tell you that I've been focusing a lot about love, and that remind us because I am not alone in this world. That God does love me, and God loves you, and God loves everybody. And just a reminder: as bad as things are today, just imagine the things that Jesus went through and the suffering, which is nowhere near where we're at today.
Mm.
So keep it in perspective. I will tell you that's been a scripture that's in, instantly came to my mind when you were asking me and you were talking about yours and your
Yeah.
unique ones you had on the wall. But Todd, nothing stronger or more important in this world than the gift of love.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Lisa as much as I did. Tune in next week, Friday at 4, and you'll see the second part of my interview with her. She'll be giving another testimony, this time regarding her physical transformation.
I can't thank you enough for having me here and letting me give my testimony.
That's
Thanks
great.
so much. It was really genuinely heartfelt from my side as well.
Well, it's my pleasure. To my audience out there, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Todd Rheingold, the hopeful aspirant. I got a testimony. Let's all aspire to reach higher and stay inspired. God bless.